This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, we've packed a number of shows together to give you some highlights. I know you're going to enjoy the show. Thank you for being with us today.
Steve, I'm excited to interview you and hear more about your story. Just a few things you've shared before we started recording have definitely piqued my interest and just learning from you and some of the amazing things that you have accomplished. And I want to dive into how you've done that right today and probably tomorrow as well. And so the listeners and I can learn from you. So, Steve, welcome to the show.
Whitney, it's a pleasure being on the show, and I look forward to having a great conversation. And as we talked earlier, being able to talk about my journey heading west.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And I think so often when we look back, we can call it history, but look back at people's journeys. There's numerous people, even hundreds of years ago, right? That the more we learn about them, we can learn so much from them. But even somebody like yourself, that was hundreds of years ago, but even in the more recently, right? You've done some amazing things. You've accomplished a lot. You've been able to scale those hurdles, right, or those mountains, or whatever it may be, those obstacles that's come in front of you. And it's unfortunate many people are not ready to do that, or sometimes they quit right when things get difficult. But you did not, and so I'm looking forward to diving in. Let's go back a little bit. I want to hear more about this story, and because I think it's shaped you right in so many ways, and now you're able to help so many others with some of those same issues, right? Or maybe even before they face that mountain, you're helping them be prepared, right, for the mountain when it comes, because no doubt it's coming. So let's dive in, Steve, a little bit. Let's back up in your story, and because I know it hasn't always been real estate for you, but man, it sounds like you've learned a lot in business, and now I've been able to apply that in real estate. So I want to learn from you in that regard.
Whitney, it's the journey started years back, and it started with a phone call at 4 a.m. And on the phone, with that phone call, nothing good happens at 4 a.m. when you get a phone call. And it was my general manager on the phone saying it got struck by lightning. And and you're thinking, what got struck by lightning? Well, she told me at 4 a.m. that the manufacturing company that I just bought got hit by lightning, and 80% of it is burning to the ground. And it was a 100,000 square foot facility. And Whitney, I had just moved my family back to Omaha from Kansas City 3 months earlier. I put all my money into this company. It employed 50 people. So this was my launching platform. I had all my eggs in one basket. Everything I had was in this company, and it was burning to the ground. Well, the warehouse, by the time it was all over and done with, the building, 80% of it burnt down. Come to find out, I was underinsured. These are things you don't do. You have one customer, one product, and one building. That is not a great formula for trying to diversify your risk. So after the business burnt down, we kind of figured out, could we come back in business? And so we came back. Instead of 50 employees, we came back with 9. And I told myself, never, ever again am I going to have all my eggs in one basket. So after that, I was on a journey. How do I diversify this business? How do I make this thing happen? And my brother-in-law came to me, and he said he went to this educational trade show, and he saw this booth that had a letter cutting system, cutting out letters, shapes, and numbers for elementary schools, where you would, way back then, if you're going to decorate a bulletin board, you would see these shapes cut out. Normally they cut them out with scissors, but this company had a machine, and the booth was packed. And I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, and he was a marketing guy. And he came back and said, Steve, can you build this machine? Let's compete with these guys. No problem. 6 months later, I failed miserably, absolutely miserably. And we met and decided we're going to give up our dream of having another business to to compete with this company. And basically what the company was making was a sharp cookie cutter. You put a piece of paper on top, you press it down, and out comes a letter and a number, and teachers would put them on bulletin boards, and they'd use them for class lessons. So my first business was electronic manufacturing, and now I'm talking about educational products. Ask me how they meet, they don't, but I was diversifying. I had to figure out that if I lost one thing, I would still have another income stream. So we failed at this miserably. And about 2 weeks later, after we decided not to do the business, I'm in the kitchen. And on the kitchen table was the prototype cookie cutter sitting on the kitchen table. And it was a jack-o'-lantern. And when I looked at it, it reminded me of the failure. Like, how come you couldn't figure this thing out? And on the counter, my wife had made cookies. And next to the cookies was a rolling pin. A rolling pin. And I looked down at the table and saw the jack-o'-lantern cookie cutter. And I looked over at the rolling pin, and you do one of these. And I went, no, there's no way. So I took the rolling pin, I picked it up, put a piece of paper on top the cookie cutter, and rolled the rolling pin over the top. What? Here it is. This is the rolling pin with marks in it, and it's been signed by the employees. This rolling pin, this idea came up it just came up. You never know where ideas are going to come from. You could be on a lawnmower, you could be on a horse, you could be heading west in western Nebraska. You never, ever know. So this rolling pin, I went down the path of a machine that has a roller, and we started a company, and it was called Accucut. And now I had the electronic manufacturing, and now I had Accucut. We made shape and letter cutting systems for schools and daycares. And it's like, okay, we're starting to diversify. We're starting to figure out what goes on. I'll tell you another story. And then over the years, Accucut grew, and we were in 75% of the elementary schools.
Wow.
As we grew, the team, I mean, as we started growing, one of the things that we learned and realized after the fire burning down and starting Accucut with the business, electronic manufacturing, and it reminded me of an African parable. You've probably heard it about the gazelle and the lion. Have you heard that?
It sounds familiar.
Okay. In Africa, and it's an African parable, a gazelle wakes up in the morning, and it knows that it has to outrun the fastest lion. A lion wakes up in the morning, and it knows it has to outrun the slowest gazelle. Because if the gazelle doesn't run faster than the fastest lion, it's going to be killed. And if the lion doesn't get up and run faster than the slowest gazelle, it's going to starve to death. And the moral of the story, and this was kind of our mantra, when the sun comes up, you got to run. If you're the lion or the gazelle, you need to start running. And that was our mindset. You just have to start running. So the question is, where do you run? Where do you run? As we grow in these businesses, and the Accucut was the education company, we started hearing about quilters wanting to cut fabric. I know nothing. I'm not a quilter. I know nothing about quilting. And our marketing and sales team said, Steve, you need to go to this quilt show, because they're buying our product, not knowing why. They're using it. We're just cutting out fabric. And okay, now we're looking at how else can we diversify. And so I go to the quilt show, and our booth is packed. People are buying our product left and right. And the quilters were mad. Have you ever been to the largest quilt show in the world?
Every year.
Every year. That's what everybody says. It's every year. It's in Houston, Texas, and it's called the International Quilt Festival. It's 4 days of 60,000 quilters.
Never heard of it.
And I'm telling you, I didn't go to school to be a quilter, but this is how life is. And we'll talk about that. But I go to the quilt show, and quilters are in line to buy our product, not knowing why. They were mad. They were getting upset with us. And so, you know how you're at the ice cream shop and you get ticket number, not your number 9, and my person behind you is number 10. I then were taking pieces of paper. I'm the president there. I know nothing about quilting, and they're all mad. And so I rip pieces of paper and put numbers on them, and I start handing them out. Whitney, you're number 9 in line to order our product, because cutting fabric and paper are totally 2 different things. So I'm in line there handing these things out. And one thing, this quilter starts walking up to me. I mean, we make eye connection. I'm going, oh no, I'm in trouble. If you know anything about quilters, they're passionate, average age 62. They give you their opinion. That's what I love about it. So she came up and asked me a question about quilting. I knew nothing. One of the things, that phrase, you fake it until you make it. I faked it, and she literally, this is no joke. She took her finger and pointed it right at me. And this is it. You're president of this company. You don't know anything about quilting. You're scrapbook. We're not a scrapbooker. You should be ashamed and embarrassed of yourself in front of everybody. My employees heard it. My customers heard it. And the neat thing from that, I wanted to crawl in a hole. I was on the plane the next morning and thinking about, I'm never going to another quilt show. And then you started thinking about this. This was in 2007 and 8. What a better time. You got quilters that are so passionate. Nobody's doing it in the marketplace. Let's figure it out. So we started Accuquilt. And the point of that is that, Whitney, you never know where inspiration is going to come from. It may come from a rolling pin. It may come from a quilter. It may come, you never know. But you got to stay in the game at the worst time, when you're so embarrassed by being chewed out. That song, you get knocked down, you get up again. And that happens in life, whether it's in real estate. You're going to buy a property and it's not going to work out. It's going to be tough. Well, what do? You head west and figure the thing out. And that's life. And one of my my major triathlon coach, he said, there's only 2 things that you can control, and that's your attitude and your effort. And if you can control those 2, you can do amazing things. So now I've got 2 companies. I've got 3 companies now. And over the journey of that time frame, again, diversify your assets. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. One of the phrases, I've used the word heading west. In our companies, heading west kind of described our core values and what that is. But I'll just describe briefly what heading west means. Is that there's times in life that you think you want to do something, but you don't have enough information. And so you'll gather more, and you can turn into the paralysis by analysis that everybody knows about. But heading west means I may only have 30% of the information. Start heading west and figure out what information you need, and you will figure it out. But if you don't get moving, if you don't move in, like we did with Accuquilt for the quilting product in 2007 and 8 in the financial crisis, we didn't know anything about quilting. And we figured it out. And that led us to multiple companies after that. That was the start of Tech Brands, the company we ended up selling to private equity.
I wanted to get to that part at least, but I love that there's so many things there you mentioned, and even you going to this going to this quilting show. Seems so random, right? I mean, it seems like somebody said, "Oh, go to a quilt show." Like, I mean, I would, why would I go to a quilt show? Right. But, it's interesting what happened there. And even this lady coming up to you, and, that could have been just, right. You were thinking, I mean, that hit you hard, right? In front of everybody, in front of your team. But you just called it inspiration, right? You never know where inspiration is going to come from. Where I think a lot of times it's hard for us to see that as inspiration, right? Or in a good light, or turn it to a positive. And sounds like that's exactly what you did.
Well, and again, remember when I got chewed out in front of everybody and I wanted to crawl in a hole, I felt that for 24 hours. And then you're on a plane. And if you step back a little bit in life, it could be anything, stuff that could happen right in front of you. And you think you're never going to get through it. Step back, take a breath, and try to I look at it as going up 60,000 feet. Look up 60,000 feet. And is there something there? And have you heard about the pony, the two kids and the pony in the bedroom?
No, I have not.
And this is another thing to look at. There's two kids, a brother and a sister, and they're 10 years old. And they go into their bedroom, and there's a pile of horse manure. The daughter goes, she sees the pile of horse manure, and the daughter goes and runs out of the bedroom and goes to mom, "Mommy, mommy, 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 there's a pile of horse manure in the bedroom." Her brother goes out and goes, "Mommy, mommy, there's a pile of horse manure in the bedroom. There's got to be a pony around here." So you may be stepping in it. You may be there. There may be a pony in this. And getting chewed out from a quilter, there was a pony. There was an absolute pony. And I'm going to tell you another story about the quilting thing. And this is one of the things when you're going to be working with experts. You'll be working with experts in your business life, whether in real estate, mentors, and et cetera. And when we started Accuquilt, we then started coming up with other products. Since we didn't know anything about quilting, we hired experts. We did focus groups and research, interviewed quilters, did everything we could figure out how to get a product. After all the research in the focus group, this company, this brand, really smart brand company, came up to our company after all the research and said, "Big report, don't do it. Do not go in the quilting business. Stick with your other company. Nobody wants your product. Nobody, it's going to cost too much. You're going to lose too much money." You know what we said at the end? BS, we're doing it.
So you're going west.
We're heading west. We're going to do it. There's times in life, Whitney, where your gut tells you to do something when everybody else says no. And, like Warren Buffett, not that it's that thing, but when everybody's going in, you go out. When everybody's going out, you go in. And at that time, we really didn't know anything about what Warren Buffett was saying, but you're going to come in life, personally, family, whatever, business, where you may have to go and buck the system and go against the grain. And everybody is doing life, and it is not easy. And I appreciate you having that conversation with me. It doesn't happen that often, but you know how life is and how you get led to start talking. And I did. So thank you on that. And you were talking about selling the business. From the different companies we were growing, and my goal was always to sell the business. And we got to the point in 2019 that was decided to sell the business. And one of the things about yesterday I talked about is starting businesses. We had 5 businesses that were under a portfolio under Tech Brands that were all started from scratch. We knew nothing about the business. So if we can do it, anybody can do it, in the sense you don't need to know everything about everything and everything to head west on the journey. And one of the things when we got to the point of selling the business in 2019, we hired an investment banker, and we went through the process, got 17 offers. And by the time we got done, we selected somebody. And when we looked at the numbers, and you think that I'm doing business for 35 years, and everybody's dream is to sell the business, and you always have high expectations what the price should be. And well, the price came in lower than anybody thought, even what we thought and what the investment banker thought. And when it came in, the only way to describe it, if you're a baseball, if you know anything about baseball, it's like a little bit more than a base hit. Well, and I had this kind of conviction in my stomach that there's that phrase, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And that means, hey, you got to burn a hand's worth better than two in the bush. Just take the deal. Investment bankers saying, do the deal, do the deal, do the. Well, about 2 weeks before closing, COVID hit. Private equity firms said, let's delay it until the end of May. This was in March of 2020. And the private equity firm said, let's put it on hold. And we agreed because we didn't know anything about COVID and how it was going to affect. But when our business was direct to consumer and retail, and when our retail stores closed, and then the government was locking people in the homes, and our core business was quilting. What do quilters do when they're in their home and locked in, can't move? They quilt like crazy. And our business overnight shifted. And the only way to describe it, if you go in the Bible, Moses is at the Red Sea, and all of a sudden, God parts the Red Sea for Moses and the people to go through. Right in front of our eyes, the Red Sea, the quilting Red Sea parted, and our business just took off. And we decided to take it off the market. And that decision was our team, everybody in our company was going to get funds from the sale of the company. That's one of the things Lynette and I wanted to do. And including 20 years ago, I'm going to add this little thing. I have, before we sold, still have the company. We have 2 manufacturing plants in the Nebraska State Penitentiary. And part of our manufacturing, we had 100 people, 100 inmates working for us, getting going rate. But that's another story. We sat down with the team, and the team said, no, we're not going to sell. Let's run it again, because things are happening. And one of the things I did, Whitney, and this was tough for me, I knew I needed to get a CEO in. And I had multiple CEOs. I'm the owner of the company, but I had an advisory board, and that's when I recommend anybody have an advisory board. You have mentors, but I had an advisory board of 4 to 5 people. I've had them for 20 years, different people in and out, to help guide the business and what we're doing. So I took one of my board members, Mary Kay O'Connor Wente. She's from San Francisco, big and billion-dollar businesses. She came in, and I let her run the business. I had to back away. My ego, this is me. I used to run it. I created it from scratch and et cetera. And she worked with me and said, Steve, I got the business. You take strategy and vision. I'll take care of everything else. A great team. I love her dearly. She was awesome. Anyway, 18 months later comes around. We decide to put it back on the market. And with a new investment banker, Bridgepoint Investment Banking out of Omaha, and they were absolutely awesome. Whitney, when we were talking about in our faith in the first meeting, these guys were solid. Morals the same. Our values matched our values. We aligned up. I needed a partner that understood me and our business to take it to market. We ended up taking it to market again 18 months later. And I used the analogy. Then the first one, we got a base hit. The second time, we got the home run we were talking about. And because the business value grew, and everybody in the company got blessed, including the inmates in the pen. And what I learned from that in the process, could you plan?
But also, what about after you've built this team, maybe give us a couple tips on, creating and maintaining that kind of culture of what you said, right? Doing extraordinary things with little info, embracing the change, those things. Couple tips there.
The one thing is when we hired people, Whitney, is that we want people to come in that want to own their own business mentally. And the key is to get out of the way, to motivate them, be encouraging, have tough conversations when things don't go right. But the people we hired and wanted to hire are somebody that wanted to make a difference, give them the resources, give them the ownership. I don't mean so much in stock, and we had phantom stock and things like that, but people that want to take and run with it. We did not want to be a company where we told you what to do, because we're idiots. We don't know anything from that side of it. We're learning new things every day. But when you foster that environment and you embrace change and you win and celebrate and have fun. And if you look down the head west, one of our core values, and if you take in the head west type environment, D stands, and this is is don't believe your own BS. Meaning that you may think an idea is so great and you're mostly attached to it and et cetera, and you're not listening to anybody, and it's great. That's believing you. That's that bias in your brain. And you must surround yourself with people that will call your baby ugly. And it was in our company. Is that if I have a dumb idea, if I have an idea that I think is great, you better pick it apart. And I need to have enough humbleness to hear what they say and not get upset. And we built that culture. You could be in the executive meeting and there were no sacred cows, no anything. And if you can be around, have that team that, as they say in Good to Great, attack the squigglies fast and fix problems very, very fast, it's magical. It's absolutely magical. It hasn't always been that way because things happen, but you've got to let them run. You've got to give them the encouragement. And you as a leader have to be that humble servant leader to let them tell you things that are wrong.
Love it. We could just keep on. Steve, you've been an inspiration. I'm very grateful to have met you, had you on the show. Again, how can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Whitney, it's been a blessing being on your show, and I thank you for that, because the fun things about this, you never know where the conversation's going to go. You may have it all laid out, and that's how my life has been. Yeah, I never knew a rolling pin would do something, or a quilter, but I thank you from that side. They can get a hold of me, Steve Nabity, at Skyline Point Capital. My email address is steve.nabity@Skyline Point Capital. I'd love to talk to anybody. If someone wants to reach out and has questions, and if I can pay it forward and help one little bit, I would be a happy camper.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.